And for the most part, this is, what kind of soil are you? The important thing that you need to do is figure out if you're a hard soil, are you rocky soil, are you thorny soil, and then you need to change. And you need to figure out how to be soft soil. It's very behavioralistic. Okay, I'm hard, so how do I get soft? I'm rocky, how do I remove the rocks? There's a little tiny bit of that in this parable, but I think the main point of this parable, again, if you read a bunch of commentators, they all have their opinions about it. But here's what I think this parable means. That's the joy of a story. We can kind of process it that way. But it means this. You have Jesus. He said he's the sower. The word is what he says, but it's not just what he says. It's what he does. It's the healing. It's everything coming out from Jesus. And he's throwing that arbitrarily. Now, what's interesting is if he were a good farmer, he would try to predominantly throw this on good soil. But Jesus doesn't seem to care. He's sort of a crazy farmer. He's kind of like Johnny Appleseed. He's just going around throwing seed. And he throws seed on hard ground. He throws seed on rocky ground. He throws seed. He doesn't care. And what I think is very important here is that Jesus is saying, guys, you have the secret of the kingdom. Who happens to be God? Who happens to be me? And I am very, very generous with my grace, and I am very generous with the kingdom. And when he starts talking about a light and how should you hide it and where should it be put on a stand, he's saying, you know what? The goodness of the gospel is not just for the people in the kingdom. The goodness of the gospel is to be poured out on everybody. That Jesus is lavish with his grace. That's what the parable of the sower is predominantly about. Jesus does not care if you follow him or not. He doesn't care if you're thorny. He doesn't care if you're stubborn. He doesn't care, if you're hard ground. He doesn't care if you're, thorny or whatever. He doesn't care. I mean, he loves you, but he's not going to say, you know what? You're a hard ground, so I'm not going to throw it to you. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to love you. I'm not going to heal you. I'm not going to cast demons out of you because you're going to reject me or you're going to have trouble with me. No. Which is huge for you and I. If you decide to follow Jesus, what Jesus is saying is the gifts that have been given to you, they're not just for the people in here. The gift of the gospel, the love of Jesus in you, is for everybody. To be given arbitrarily, no matter how they don't like you, no matter how much struggle they're going to have with it, whatever. It's for everybody. When you look at the soil and the relationship between what happens to the soil, you learn some things about who we are and how we respond to the gospel. It's not that you should change, I think, who you are. I don't think your goal should be, okay, I'm hard, so I need to change that. It's to understand who you are and what kind of enemy you're going to face and what kind of struggles you're going to face. If the gospel is thrown on you, and you tend to be a stubborn person, so people around you are loving you, Jesus is loving you, and you act like Alice Park when she was little. Well, she's still little. She's so cute. But Alice, she didn't like me. And she didn't like Rod. And I have a very vivid picture of Rod and I standing in that door over there, chatting away, and Alice has to get from here to the kitchen. But that means she has to go by us. And so instead of saying hi, looking at us, waving, running on by, no, Alice starts heading towards us, and I say, hi, Alice, and Alice is like this. Their hand up, right? Nope. Don't look at me. I'm not looking at you. I'm hard ground. Don't like pastors. They're big. Right? She's adorable. I wish I had that on video. That would be the awesome video. But God doesn't care if you're Alice. You're not as cute as Alice. But if you're like, you know what? No. But what's interesting is that the enemy that you will face is Satan. If you are stubborn, the person that you're going to be in arm wrestling matches with is the bird who's going to pick up the gospel. And so if you are a stubborn person and you're stubborn when it comes to wrestling with goodness of God, Satan is the one who's going to push against you. Satan is the one you're going to be most vulnerable to, in my opinion. And so what you're going to deal with in that stubbornness is a lot of lies about who God is and who the people around you are who are offering love to you and what they want from you. and what it's going to cost you, and all these things. You're going to hear, your brain is going to be full of clutter about things that are not good. Accusations against you, against Jesus, against people around you. So, it's something to think about. The second one is this rocky ground, right? And the way I look at rocky ground is basically emotionally driven people. People who immediately, like, you feel empty, and that's all of us, so we're all emotionally, we feel empty, and we immediately think, I need to fill myself, I need to numb out, I need something out of the refrigerator, some pornography, whatever, drugs, whatever it is, whatever I use to numb myself. These are the people who are rocky soil. If they're all excited, then they're bouncing off the walls and immediately, you know what, somebody says something mean and bam, they're empty and they're like, right? The sun comes, circumstances, people sin against them. They're like an emotional roller coaster. That's what rocky ground is. I would put myself at some level in that place. Recently, I kind of realized about myself is that I'd been numbing out or just kind of using television shows and some video games just to kind of tune out of the world. And I usually can watch myself. I go on this nice cycle with that. So I decided this week, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to cut that out. I'm not going to play any video games. I'm not going to watch any television show. I'm not going to be on the computer unless it's for work, for the most part. And if I do decide to go watch a television show, I'm going to sit down with my wife and we're going to pray for a while before we do that. And I'm going to dedicate my week, I'm going to replace that with praying. And what I felt like God revealed to me is, Eric, you're driven by what the Old Testament or New Testament would say, your stomach. Like, whatever my gut tells me. I'm like, whatever the circumstances are. So even today, like, I got home from Target, which is beautifully cool. Like, that must cost so much money to air condition. But I'm going to live there now. And I got home, and I was hot. And I was, like, snapping at Susan because I'm hot. Because I'm driven by the way I act, by the way I feel. Like, I don't like my circumstances. Fix it, Susan. That's what you need to do. That's why I married you. Is to fix it. Fix this, right? She's not big enough to fix it. No. But and I realized that I am Lord of the rocky ground. And so what my enemy, when the gospel is being spoken at me, when I'm being loved, when I'm being cared for, when I'm listening to Jesus, the thing that I'm going to battle with, and I battled with this all week while I prayed, was this emotional emptiness. And it seems that what God is calling us, people who are like that, is to actually sit in the emptiness for a while. To sit in it, to feel it a little bit. To engage and hear what God is saying to us and how He can come and fill us up or at least walk with us in the brokenness around us. So, it's something to think about as you hear this parable. And the last one is the thorny ground or the weedy ground or whatever that is. And that, from what Jesus is saying, is much like the world. It is the world's value system. And people who struggle with this, the weakness here is that you're constantly trying to find your identity somewhere else other than Jesus. That you find your identity in what the world says is important. So what is your job and how are you enjoying it? What's your family like? Is it a good family, bad family, and how are you enjoying that? How much money do you have? What do you look like? You know? How long are your eyelashes? Right? What kind of haircut do you have? Are you ripped like Ron Layman or not? It's a small group today. I just feel like knocking and smacking people around. Right? Because I'm really hot. What's that? Vulnerable to identity. To the world dictating our identity. Not secure in who we are. So things easily impact who we are. So know that then, if you're that person, if you're often like, when you hear that you're Jesus' brother, that He died for you, that you're a priest, that you're this beautiful person that God's created, you're an image bearer of God, all that kind of stuff, if you hear that and you think, no, really need the long eyelashes, need more money, need people to clap for me, then know that that's where